And this is going to be this is our first Zoom cooking class with the Avant ladies, and we hope to do more of these. And we'd love your feedback. We're going to do 3 recipes today, and I think you're going to really enjoy them. We're going to start off first with our dessert. It's a fall light pumpkin cake. We're going to start off with that, and so that we can get it in the oven. We have heated our ovens to 375, and both our recipe, the pumpkin cake and also our the shrimp crescent roll will be cooking at the 375 temperature. So that's why we went ahead and set our preheated our ovens. So first we're going to start with the pumpkin cake, and then we'll go to the crescent rolls and get those in the oven, and then we're going to do our risotto balls. And I think you're going to enjoy all these recipes. So we'll have Kim, this is my daughter Kim, that's helping today as a sous chef, and Sue Slatt is here, and she's a co-president for the Avant-Garde along with me, and I'm Kathy Robling, and it's a pleasure to do this cooking class for you today. Okay, yep. So Kim, go ahead and take it away.
You're narrating.
All right, so I'll narrate while Kim does the stirring. And we're going to start off first with combining butter and the cake mix. And we're using it's a spice cake mix. And so that we're going to start off with. And this, what she's doing with this, you're just going to put the butter in the cake mix, and it's actually going to make the bottom layer of the cake. You're going to press it down after she mixes that, press it down into the pan on the bottom. And today what we're going to do is we're actually going to do both a cake and a cake pan, which is, it recommends a 9 by 12 inch pan, but we're going to also make some little cupcakes. We thought this is a great thing for families if they want to do it with their kids. So we'll be pressing the cake mix down on the bottom of these little liners, the cupcake liners, and making little mini pumpkin cakes. And I thought this would be great for kids, or if you're entertaining and you want to just do this and put a little pumpkin cake on a plate and decorate it up real pretty, would be a great way to serve it too. Okay, so Kim, I'll put it over here.
So you just combine a half a stick of butter, which I melted a little bit to kind of mix with the cake mix. So all of the cake mix and the butter, and then after you mix it together, you'll reserve 1 cup with some nuts for the topping.
It smells really good too. It's kind of a different take. Instead of a graham cracker crust or a regular pie crust, this is that spiciness.
If you are a pumpkin spice ball gal, this is for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so get the dry ingredients mixed really well with that butter to kind of get that good crumbly texture.
Pressing it in there while you mix the pumpkin if you want to.
Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to reserve 1 cup for my topping. So I'm combining my chopped nuts that I have with the reserved cup for my streusel topping for later. And the rest of the cake mix will go kind of as your crust. So you'll put it at either the bottom of the cake pan or the bottom of the little muffin tins.
Okay, so I'll do that while Kim mixes up the pumpkin filling in the center.
So the recipe calls for 1 large can of pumpkin, but we couldn't find a large can of pumpkin at our store because everyone's buying them up for Thanksgiving. So we substituted with 2 smaller cans of regular pumpkin. So you'll combine the pumpkin with condensed milk. or evaporated milk. 1.5 cups of sugar. We've measured everything out prior to. And then all of your spice ingredients. So we have cloves, ginger, and we added a little cinnamon even though it's not on the recipe because we like our cinnamon in our mix for an extra touch. So 1/2 teaspoon of cloves here. And you can adjust the spice levels to your preference. I like my pumpkin spice level maximum. Spicy.
Flavor. Mm-hmm.
Got 1 teaspoon of ginger.
Yes, please.
And a dash of cinnamon. Combined it all together. We'll need to add some eggs in there as well. Let me keep this going a little bit. It is definitely a very wet consistency with the pumpkin and the milk, but it'll all come together once you bake it, and it kind of creates a pumpkin pie-ish type texture. Once fully baked.
Okay, so I got the bottom layer. You can see it there. It's patted down in the cake pan.
Adding my 4 eggs. Incorporating everything, getting this nice, beautiful orange fall color.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely fall color.
Yeah. It smells really good too. Between the spice cake bottom and then the spices in the pumpkin, it smells really good.
And we did the same pat down with the cupcake
Liners, yeah.
Next one, dash it in the mix or anything. Okay, so once that's combined, you simply pour it on top of the crust that you've created, and then you'll eventually mix put your topping, kind of like a streusel topping on top. So we can go ahead and first we're gonna fill our cupcake liners so we know we have enough for that. Here. So I'm filling them about 2/3 full, so I have enough room for my topping.
Very, very pretty orange color.
There we go. So I kind of loaded them in my little cupcake pans. And now I'm going to mix my nuts with the reserved cake mix that was mixed with the butter. We'll kind of sprinkle on top and pat in just a little bit so it mixes in when baked. So little topping. Do you want to pour this in there?
Yeah.
Topping on each one of these. And then the rest of it, if you were just doing just the full cake, you would pour all of the topping on top of your crust into the cake pan and then put the topping on the cake. We're doing it 2 ways today. So there it kind of looks a little patted down once I've covered my little cupcakes here, the little top crumble.
And this will go into the oven, and we did it for how many minutes on the cupcakes, Kim?
Cupcakes are, it says between 12 and 17, but I think we needed a little more time because the middle gets it's a little wet. So I would say about 15 to 18 minutes.
15 to 18 for the cupcake.
So we'll start with 15 and check on them.
It looks really pretty.
Okay.
Yeah, it almost looks like a sweet potato casserole or something if you're taking it for Thanksgiving. So kind of just patting that topping down into the mixture gently. Seems to incorporate better when you bake it. And it sets up really pretty. So now we'll pop that in the oven, and that goes for the full 45 minutes.
Okay.
So now while those items are baking, we're gonna move on and we'll do our shrimp crescent rolls. And our kitchen smells amazing, having that pumpkin in, so on to that.
All right.
Okay, so our next recipe is a shrimp crescent roll. And we are using the dough, the crescent dough, that comes in actually a rectangle. So what we'll do is cut it in thirds to use for the recipe. But we wanted to show you this. And it also says, picky eater approved.
I'll open it.
Okay, so we're starting with 8 ounces of cream cheese that's softened and put in here. Then we're going to add 1 clove of garlic minced. And a 1/2 cup of finely chopped celery. Then we are going to go with our spices. So we need a 1/2 teaspoon of basil.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
And I recommend if you like things with a little bit more of the herb tasting, to add a little bit more herbs to it. When I did this last weekend, I actually, once I mixed up the cream cheese and put the original recipe amounts in there, I tasted it. I added a little salt and pepper to the recipe too, to bring out the flavors. And I ended up adding a little bit more thyme and a little bit more oregano because I like those flavors. But it's kind of your own personal taste. But I recommend that you do taste the cream cheese before you put it into the crescent rolls.
Or a semi-homemade hack, if you wanted to buy your favorite flavored cream cheese, you could do that as well, as long as you have the correct amount of ounces. So they have the chive cream cheese or the jalapeno, that have all the different flavors as well.
Yep, if you want it spicier. And also this recipe is calling for shrimp in the cream cheese, but you could put crab meat, you could put, for those that don't like seafood, you could do beef, or pepperonis or some other kind of meat in that, or just make it vegetarian, put lots of vegetables in there too.
Okay, so now we're going to mix all the ingredients. We got our 1/2 teaspoon of lemon after putting in the basil and the oregano and the thyme. And then it's a matter of mixing. It just takes a little while to do that. You want to make sure you get it mixed well so all the flavors are in every bite. And after I have this part mixed, I'm going to add my shrimp. The shrimp, you have the regular size shrimp and you cut it, correct?
I did. So I got the frozen package of shrimp, and I it was just regular size. And then what I did is I actually diced it down to small pieces, because I felt like when you take a bite into these crescent rolls, you don't want too big of a piece of shrimp. So they're smaller pieces that I just kind of diced it, and I thought it'd go better in the cream cheese anyway. And that seemed to work well. And plus it cooks better that way, I think, in the crescent roll.
I think when you use a spoon, can get it a little better. Yeah, and the fork too. Now I'm going to add the shrimp. About half of it to start with. It also makes it easier to mix if you have cut the shrimp. And while I'm doing this, Kim is preparing the dough.
So I've just unrolled the crescent dough, and I've kind of created 3 rectangular portions that we're going to line the filling into.
Almost there, almost ready. Now we're going to spread this evenly.
Do you want to do a little salt and pepper?
Oh, yes.
A little salt and pepper to flavor.
And I can move over here and show you how it goes on here. All right, we're going to bring this up. Maybe that spatula would help us smooth that out better.
So just kind of evenly dividing up the dough or the filling that we've created onto the crescent roll dough into the center of the little rectangular portions.
A little bit gooey with the cream cheese. But
There's going to
that's
be
what it's
extra.
supposed to be.
I would. Yeah, it's never supposed to be first. This recipe calls for 2 packages of crescent rolls, and so we are only going to do 1 today. So really, we probably want to take some of this filling out. You don't want too much filling in there, or it will all come out of the center of your crescent rolls. So we're just going to do half the mixture.
I think I did do it in this material.
Flat. So we'll roll it up. Yep. It's the other reason you want to make sure that you've cut your shrimp. It's easier to move around the little pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so take the filling all the way to the very edges, but kind of lined up in the center like this, because we're going to roll them up now.
You're actually going to do it widthwise or lengthwise around. So make a long log is what it's going to do.
So we're making sushi rolls.
Yeah, like sushi.
Definitely makes it easier to have your filling right in the center of this.
Yeah, because it will puff up in the oven. So kind of pinch the sides so that it comes together, and make sure any holes that you might have created are closed back up, pinch them closed. so your filling doesn't pop out.
And the ends, right?
But we're gonna cut them.
Oh, right.
Yes, here's the knife. Cut them and I'll give you a pan to put them on. Should we put them into little, just little, kind of, here's the baking pan.
Yeah, so when you kind of cut your little dough rolls, you'll have your center, your filling right there, and place them up. So your filling is kind of up, facing up top.
Upright, press them
Upright.
upright, just kind of push them down just a tiny bit. Also for Christmas, if you wanted to add a little color like red and green, you could sprinkle either a little more basil on the top or parsley and maybe a little
Or some bell pepper.
red bell pepper or something red, a little tomato or something on the top before you put these in the oven, and that'd be really pretty with the red and the green. As you can see, this makes, gosh, more than 24 just out of one roll of crescent rolls. So to do 2 rolls, twice the recipe, you're gonna have quite a few. You could, I wouldn't freeze them, but they do save in the refrigerator for about 3 days, I would say, is about the length that you would probably wanna keep them.
So here's kind of what they look like once we put them on the tray. So you kind of see their little sushi roll kind of looking.
Yeah.
And we'll pop these in the oven.
Okay. And they go in the oven for how many minutes, Sue?
Let's see. It says 15 to 20 minutes.
So for 15 to 20 minutes, you're gonna put them in the oven at 375 degrees.
And when we put them on the cookie sheet, we put the seam side down, and that helps them when they puff.
Perfect. All right. So we've got both things are in the oven cooking. Kim, do you want to show with the camera? Let's take a look at how our cake is doing. Cake and the cupcakes.
I can tell you it smells wonderful.
See them in there? They're cooking. It's cooking up a little bit on the top. It's smelling so spicy and good. And then our crescent rolls are in the oven. Kim? Show them. So you can see our crescent rolls are now cooking in the oven too. There they are. Okay. And now we're just going to move on to our risotto balls. So my husband and I lived in Naples, Italy for 2 years, and he was on the NATO staff there. And we used to go to a lot of Italian cocktail parties. And the first thing they usually would give us when we walk into the cocktail parties was a little glass of Prosecco. And then the next thing they usually give us as an hors d'oeuvre was risotto balls. And these are delicious. And I think, well, kids love them for sure. Adults love them. And there's different things you can do with the risotto balls, depending on your personal taste. First of all, you want to use leftover risotto. So what I did is I actually made risotto yesterday. And it's just a simple risotto. I put the recipe on the recipe cards that we sent out. But this is just chicken broth, onions, the arborio rice, and a little Parmesan cheese to finish it off. And then I let it cool. I put it in the refrigerator overnight. And so that I could use it today. But if you wanted to put mushroom in here, a little asparagus, you could do that in your risotto, but I decided just to use plain this time. But you can be creative and do whatever you want to. So that's what I've got. Also, what you're gonna need, we're actually gonna put cubes of cheese in the middle. And it calls for mozzarella cheese, but you can use any type of cheese. And we cut them into little squares like this, you can see. And we're gonna actually just put this little square cheese right in the center of these balls that we're gonna be making. And then what we're gonna be doing is dredging them in breadcrumbs, flour, and then we're going to do some egg whites. And what we want to do also is we're going to use 2 egg yolks that we're actually going to add to our leftover risotto, and we're going to mix that in there, because what that's going to do is keep our risotto balls together. So once we cook them, when you bite in, the risotto stays together and the cheese is right in the center. Okay, so Kim, if you want to go ahead and separate those for me. I'm going to add also salt. Also, it calls for just a little bit of salt to be added to your flour mixture. You don't need too much because there's a lot of seasoning already in the risotto. And then I actually use the Italian breadcrumbs. So there's a lot of seasoning in the breadcrumbs too. Okay. We do flour. And when you do the dredging, you actually do flour first. You roll the risotto in the flour, then the egg white, and then the breadcrumb. Okay, so we'll wait just a second. Kim's going to be doing the egg whites real quick. Okay, and while she's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm mixing in the 2 egg yolks into the risotto.
This helps make it sticky.
Yeah, it does.
Stickier.
Stickier. Yeah. Some people like, instead of putting the cheese in the center, they like cheese all throughout the risotto. If you want to do that, instead of putting this square cheese in the center, you could shred up some cheese and mix it also in with this risotto, and then just make your balls that way. But I like that little surprise in the middle when you eat that risotto ball and you get that little burst of cheese in the center. I like that. But our son, he said he would prefer cheesy goodness throughout the whole risotto. So I guess it's a personal taste, but. Anyway.
It might be a guy thing.
It might be a guy thing. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start making our balls. I'll put this here. And we're gonna have lots of helping hands, so and what I like using on these balls, I just happen to have one of these little scoopers, and it's just the size, a perfect size for like meatballs.
A melon ball.
Yeah, a little melon baller, I guess you call it. So what I do is I go in, I get a scoop of the rice. I'll give it to Sue. We're all 3 are gonna help make these balls. So we want you to see what we do. So we're gonna get a scoop of the rice. And then what we're gonna do is make a little hole in the center. We're gonna put our cheese down in the center. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll our rice into a ball. So here we go, we've got our balls. Okay, so you can see them and they're all pretty. And then what we're gonna do is dredge them. We're gonna put them in flour first, roll them in the flour mixture. You can see the flour. Roll them in the egg wash. And then we're gonna put them in the breadcrumbs. So I'll show you. This is what it's gonna look like when it's done. They're really nice and pretty. And then what we do is we put them onto a cookie sheet. We're gonna set them on a cookie sheet and so they'll be ready to fry. So we're gonna make these balls for a second, and once we get about 6 balls made, then we're gonna have Kim start frying them, and we'll show you what they look like. And what I wanted to show you too, the key really in frying these risotto balls is getting the temperature of your oil just right. I use vegetable oil, and a way you can test to see if the oil is ready, take a kernel of the rice, the risotto rice, set it in the oil, turn the oil on, probably medium to medium low heat for probably five minutes before you start to cook these risotto balls. But a great way to test it is put one of these pieces of rice in there, and if it starts to cook, you can see it kind of the oil kind of dancing in there, then you know your oil's ready. You don't want it too hot because you don't want to burn the outside and not warm up the inside and melt the cheese. So it's going to be really important to get it the right temperature. Okay, I just tested my oil, and it's my little piece of rice. Let me show you. It's dancing in the pot. I'm going to show you. I don't know if you can see it, but see, it's dancing in the pot. So it's showing me that the oil is perfectly ready to start frying our risotto balls.
We'll just make a couple more, and then we'll fry them.
I can continue doing this.
All right. This is a fun thing to do with children too, because children would really, I think they would enjoy making these little balls, getting their hands in there with the risotto and
Like Play-Doh.
yeah, it's like Play-Doh. I think they'll enjoy eating them better, but I think they'd enjoy, but they definitely enjoy making the balls. Get it? Okay, go ahead. All right, so while we continue to roll the balls, Kim's gonna start cooking them. So I'm gonna bring the camera over and show you what she's doing over here. Okay, so you can see the balls are going in the oil and they're sizzling. And we wanna keep an eye on that oil so it doesn't get too hot. And they recommend only about maybe 6 to 8 at the most in the frying pan. Okay, I think we need to turn it down just a little bit. Looks like they're browning pretty quickly, so I'm having Kim turn the oil down just a little bit. Yeah.
Just keep rolling them in there like meatballs. Brown all the sides. They're kind of evenly browned on all sides. Put it on a paper towel lined plate.
Okay, while Kim continues to do the risotto balls, we're going to take a look at our baked goods in the oven. Okay, let's take a look at the little crescent rolls. They're coming along great. We've got a few more minutes. They got to get a little bit bigger. but they're looking delicious. You see them kind of bubbling. We want to get them nice and brown, a little browner, a little more crisp along the edges. So we're gonna give them a few more minutes. And then down in our lower oven, we're gonna be taking out our cupcakes, the little small ones, but the pumpkin cake itself is gonna cook a little bit longer. So take a look at those, great. Okay, we're back. Sue's working hard, making more risotto balls.
Yep. And they get sticky.
Here we go.
Don't want to forget the cheese.
Yeah, I gotta get the cheese in the middle, okay.
They do get sticky when you're making them, so if you need to put the risotto ball dough back in the fridge or the freezer for a little bit, that helps.
All right.
Oh, yeah, the cupcakes are beautiful.
We just pulled the pumpkin cupcakes out of the oven, and they kind of look like these beautiful chopped little streusel muffins right here. And this is what your cake will look like as well.
You can smell the spices in it.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Yeah, we've got a mixture of lots of different fragrances going on in our kitchen. Between the risotto and the spices of pumpkin. It's smelling pretty good in here.
Wow.
Okay.
I have this one. Yes.
In just a minute, we'll cut into one of the pumpkin desserts and into the risotto balls so you can take a look at the inside, what they look like. And then at the end of our session, what we would like to do too is answer any questions. So if you have any questions, you can ask us. And oh, got some messages, great.
Oh,
So,
I can almost smell the yumminess.
yes. I wish we could, it was fragrant vision. We could somehow get those smells over to you guys. So we will answer any questions if you have any questions or any recommendations or suggestions or at the end. In our last 10 minutes, we'll be able to do that. We're just about at a point where we can probably do that. We're just finishing off a few more of these risotto balls, so we have some for you to see that are cooked. All right. Do you want me back? Pull one of these out too. Okay. That's all. Okay. What I'd like to do is show you the inside of this pumpkin cake. So here's our cupcake that just came out, and if you can see it, it's got the crumble on top, the crumble on the bottom, and then just a nice little soft pumpkinness in the inside.
And it's steaming with aroma.
Yes. And they recommend you could top it with a little bit of whipped cream, or if for those that are cheese cream frosting lovers, you could go ahead and drizzle a little cream cheese frosting over the top of it to make it really pretty if you'd like to do that. And that would be delicious also. And then our risotto ball that just came out, nice and golden brown. I'm gonna cut it right in the middle so you can see what it looks like in the center. Okay, so here's our risotto ball with a creamy yumminess right in the inside. You can see that just nice and soft cream. The cheese is just soft. The risotto's warmed all the way through, and you've got that golden crisp, crunchy outside it part of the risotto ball.
I think the rest of these, because our risotto has gotten sticky and difficult to make it into a ball.
Yeah.
So at that point, you put it back in the refrigerator.
Yes. Yes. And our little crescent rolls are now out of the oven. And we have our beautiful little crescent rolls, little shrimp crescent rolls. See how pretty they are? You can just smell that the herb cream cheese in the inside and the shrimp. And if your children, for those that want to do it for kids, if they don't like shrimp, like I said, just do the cream cheese. You could put a little pepperoni in there. They would love the pepperoni instead, and that cream cheese filling with the herbs. And kids would love these. Either way, if they like shrimp too, or but if they don't prefer shrimp, you put pepperonis in there.
Do we want to make more?
I think that's
It's just real sticky.
Yeah. I think what we're going to do now, Anna, if you want to go ahead and unmute everybody, what we'd love to do is get your comments, any questions you have about the recipes, and we'd love to be able to answer them. Okay.
One should be unmuted, hopefully. Let's see.
All right. Any questions, anybody?
No, great job.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
I wish I were there.
I know, we do
looks
too.
very
We
good.
got lots of food. We wish you
That's
were here
right.
so we could share it.
We need to have a
Sure.
scratch and sniff.
I know it. Maybe we need to sit down a little, some already cooked ahead of time, right? To everybody that's going to be participating.
That's
So
an
they can
idea.
join us. I know.
Yeah. My favorite way to eat the risotto balls is with a little marinara sauce. So dunk them in kind of like a little pizza ball and have a little taste.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And I usually warm up the marinara sauce or have it room temperature. And you could even sprinkle a little Parmesan cheese on top of the marinara sauce too, if you wanted to. So when you dunk the balls in there, you know, you get all that goodness, even more cheesy goodness, and then the tomato sauce. So it's a good thing. So,
Kath, I have a question.
sure.
So when you're making those and you're having people over, do you need to cook them and then serve them right away, the risotto balls?
You know, they need to be warm but not hot. The problem with actually these risotto balls are so hot on the inside, so you actually want them to set for a little while. So I would recommend like undercooking them just a tiny bit, put them back on a tray and just cover them a little bit. Well, actually I wouldn't even cover them because you want them to stay crisp. I would just keep them on a cookie sheet, and then you could put them in the oven and just turn it on very low just to keep them warm on the inside. Yeah. They are nice when they're just a little bit warm, you know, so that cheese stays soft on the inside, but you don't want them too hot so that they burn people's mouths.
Well, we made these last weekend and I took them home and had them the next day. I just reheated them in my convection oven and they came out just as crispy and they tasted just as good. So with some more marinara. So you could make them ahead of time. They seem to stay put together.
Okay.
And you can, if you wanted to, you could do the balls ahead of time, just not don't dredge it. You know, don't do the breadcrumbs and the flour and the egg whites, but do the rolling of all the risotto first and the cheese in the center. And you could keep that on a sheet. You could actually do that the day before. You could do that the day before. If you wanted to make this done, you know, a little bit faster, I would say just make the balls. They're actually better when they stay cold first, and then and dredging them, they cover much quicker and easier when, you know, they're already pre-made and cold. So you could do that ahead of time too. And so the day of, just do your dredging real quick and fry them real quick, and then just put them back on a cookie sheet. And if you're having company come over, I would just pop them in the oven on a very, very low temperature, maybe 200 degrees to keep them warm. But there you go. You see all that. But they look so pretty on a tray. You can put a little parsley on the side. You've got that in your little bowl of with your marinara sauce, and it's delicious. It's very, very good. So, well, okay.
We're going to taste test.
Yeah, we're gonna do a taste test. I wish we would love to pass you some, but we want to say, okay. Okay, so from the three of us here, come on, ladies, get in. We want to say happy Thanksgiving and cheers, and stay safe, stay healthy, and try our risotto balls. Cheers. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Great job.
Thank you.